Hi everyone, my name is Patricio, and I am here to give you the summary of Module 3. So as we know, Module 3 is a very lengthy topic as it involved a lot of different principles regarding on how we can improve the readability of our message. So it could be a handful, and I believe that the summary could actually help us to again, remember the key takeaways of these different principles. So I remember that there are 14 principles that was discussed. So let us start with the summary of the first principle, which is to think then write. Okay, so here we learned that we must before we engage in writing or in the writing process, we must first think. So think of what? We must first think of the purpose of our writing or the written message. So is it to inform, to persuade, or to entertain? Next, to think about the audience. Who are they? And what are their demographics? What are their beliefs, their values? And of course, most definitely, what are their needs? So by considering that, we are able to tailor fit our message for our audience and help it to become more understandable or readable for them. Next, we also must consider the medium of our message. So what is the medium or what channel are we going to use in order to deliver our message? So for written outputs, um typically we're going to either be it could be either a letter, a poster, flyers, pamphlets, so on and so forth, or it could be visual such as this slideshow. So it is important for us to consider the medium that we're going to use in delivering the message so that again we can tailor fit our uh our writing to become more effective in that specific medium. We also learned that outlining our ideas could go a long way. So by outlining our ideas, we are able to account for everything or account for every information that we want to include in our message. It also helps us to develop a smoother flow of ideas or the smoother transition between paragraphs if we are writing um, with the very long messages where we are using paragraphs. So using an outline can help us become guided with our writing process. Up next, we have the use of simple, short, and familiar words. So basically, we must avoid the use of big words. So, for example, instead of using equitable, we can just use fair. So, by using the layman's term, we are able to account for again our audience. So, because everyone or not everyone can understand big words or will have the same vocabulary as others. And by considering that, we are able to improve the readability of our message. Next, we have get straight to the point. So here we learned that we must avoid euphemisms. So instead of saying substance abuse, we can say it plainly as addiction. Or by avoiding roundabout phrases, instead of saying affixed his signature, we can simply say signed. So avoid overlapping meanings or redundancy. So here, the example is instead of saying predict ahead, we can just say predict because, well, predict ahead is quite redundant. Next, avoid verbal deadwoods such as really, actually, as a matter of fact, etc. So I believe there is a list of these verbal deadwoods in our module and on the discussion of one of my group mates. So you may look into that for a more detailed list of this. Next, the use of specific and concrete language. So here we learned that we must specify the words that could be relative, such as time, size, and measurements. So instead of saying a generous amount, we can specify it to 3 cups. Instead of saying a very long time, we can say or specify it into 6 months. So because everyone can have different perceptions of these of time, size, measurements, etc. It could be confusing if we're going to use this very general general words or general terms. So it is important for us to become specific and to become concrete with the words that we are using. Next is that we must avoid the use of jargon. So jargons again are words or terms that are specific to a certain discipline or industry. So because of that, it could mean differently from one person to another, especially if they're from different industries or from different disciplines. So for example, the pan for a chef could mean a frying pan, But for media professionals, it could mean the movement of the camera. So by avoiding the use of jargons, we are able to avoid these confusions and miscommunications, especially if we are communicating to a wider range of audience. Similar to that, we also should avoid the use of idioms or idiomatic expressions. Okay, so idioms may mean differently from person to person because of their interpretation or the proper use or their knowledge of the proper use of these idiomatic expressions. We must also avoid the use of idioms because idioms can mean differently from across culture. So this is very important, especially if we are communicating cross-culturally or in a multicultural or a multi-linguistic um, audience. Because again, we have a different set of idiomatic expressions across different cultures around the world. Oops. So there, next is to keep our sentences short. So by keeping our sentences short, we are able to avoid a confusion and or avoid the lose of interest of our reader. So your messages may also change in meaning as you make your sentences longer. So that could cause again confusion or misunderstanding in our part. However, you must choose which ideas need more expounding. And of course, if a certain idea or a certain topic needs more expounding or needs more explanation, then therefore we can make the sentences longer, or we can just add more sentences to provide more information to that certain topic. So here, we've learned that the strategy is to break down your sentence into smaller sentences, especially if you notice that your sentence is becoming a bit lengthy. So breaking it down to smaller sentences can help you to avoid making them too long and making it more digestible for the reader, and hence improve the readability of your content. Next, we have here, we learned that we prefer the use of active voice to from the passive voice. So active voice is more empathic and shorter when written. So the example is here: Evan ate a mango, as compared to a mango was eaten by Evan. So it for a more layman's explanation, sometimes the passive voice just doesn't sound right sometimes. However, those are both correct, but again, we prefer to use the active voice over the passive voice. However, passive voice can be used if the subject is less important than the object. So, for example, the president of the Philippines was bitten by a dog. So, of course, we know that the president of the Philippines is more important than a dog, and hence, the object, which is the president of the Philippines, um, should be mentioned first, and hence it is a in the passive voice. So for more information on this, again, you can refer to the video of my group mate and also on our module. Next is to avoid dangling modifiers. So place the modifier nearest the word it modifies. So we must make sure that we are not using dangling modifiers, because again, it can cause confusion on who is who, or who did what, or who is who, or what did they do, or something like that. So here, make sure that your sentence clearly says who did what, who is what, and which is which. So for example, a sentence or a message that did not or avoided the use of dangling modifiers is here: my father bought me a new car after I passed the driver's test. So here, the sentence shows us clearly who bought what. So we know that that is a father. We know who passed what. So we know that I passed the driver's test, so on and so forth. And again, for more detailed explanation of this, you may refer to the video of my classmate or my group mates, and also on our module. Next is to keep your paragraph short. So similar with keeping our sentences short, a longer paragraph can sometimes derail you from the message and can cause confusion or misunderstanding to our audience or to your reader, because probably longer paragraphs or longer sentences could provide or could cause information overload, which is again can cause confusion to our readers. So make sure that each paragraph conveys only one main idea, and add a few sentences to support the main idea. So ideally, a paragraph is kept in within 3 to 4 sentences short. in order for us to avoid, providing too much information or to avoid the derailing of our message. So by keeping it short, again, it avoids the confusion on the reader. Next is to arrange your material logically. So here we can apply the outlining here, which we've mentioned on the very first principle, which is to think before writing. So here, organizing your information in a way that the readers can easily follow is the ideal thing to do. Okay, so a poorly arranged material can cause confusion or misunderstanding on the part of the audience. So of course, again, you can use an outline or you can make an outline before you actually engage in writing. Also, you may use numbered lists and bullets in order for you to emphasize or to put emphasis on certain topics, especially if you're enumerating different concepts. So it's easier for us to create a numbered list or to present the ideas in bullets in order for the readers or to your audience to avoid being confused with all the information that you're presenting. Also, break down your material to digestible chunks is another thing that you could do to arrange your material logically. So by breaking down your material to digestible chunks, you are able to actually have more focus on each topic. So again, as we could look back, keeping the paragraphs short, we've learned again that at least keep one main idea for each paragraph. So yeah, by breaking down your material to those paragraphs with one main idea and just some supporting details can help you break down the material into digestible chunks. Next is to strive for a smooth flow of ideas. So here we've learned that the use of appropriate transitional devices to connect ideas is important, especially for those paragraphs with no obvious connection. So the poor use of transitional devices can cause confusion on the readers. Okay, so again, there is a list of transitional devices that we could use in order for us to transition from one paragraph to another, especially again for those paragraphs with no obvious connection. So you may look that up on our material or our course guide, and also on the video report of one of my group mates. Next is to review your grammar. So here, correct grammatical usage is essential in our writing. So polish your subject-verb agreement, the use of tenses, the use of articles and adverbs can go a long way in improving the readability of your message. So correct grammatical usage can help you appear more credible and professional. So this is very important. Again, for a more detailed explanation, there is a list of the of these different topics such as subject verb agreement, tenses, articles, and adverbs on our source material and also on the report of one of my group mates. And finally, of course, revise and sharpen. So review your work to spot for errors. So reviewing your work to spot for mistakes is very important because again, sometimes we let some information or something slip through us, and we cannot always ensure that while we're writing we've done everything perfectly or correctly. So reviewing is essential in order for us to spot mistakes and for us to correct it before we publish it. So again, um by ensuring that there are no errors in our message, uh, it can contribute to to the readability of your material and to avoid confusion or misunderstanding for your audience. So here, when you're revising your message, you can ask yourself these following questions. First is to ask yourself, have you made your message clear? Is your idea um, clearly stated and clearly discussed on your message? So next, does your article have coherence and focus? So is the flow of ideas coherent, or is there or is your topic losing focus or discussing a lot of different topics that are not related to each other? Okay. Next is to ask yourself, is it immediately evident to your readers where the discussion is heading? So again, this goes back to the purpose of your message. So is it going to an informative message? Is it going to be a persuasive message, or is it for entertainment? So again, that goes back to the very first principle, which is to think before you write. Next is to ask yourself, does your ideas flow smoothly? So again, this is where outlining could help you a lot. So by outlining, you're able to again arrange your ideas in a more smooth manner. Also, the use of transitional devices is very important for this part. Okay. And then, of course, you can ask yourself also that are your sentences grammatically correct? Okay. So by asking that, you'll become more vigilant for mistakes and errors or mistakes in your text. Okay. So that would be for the 14 different principles that was discussed in module 3. So here are some notes. So here we've learned that improving our writing or writing for readability requires a lot of practice. So this is something that wouldn't happen overnight. So these principles that we've learned from this module is not a guarantee that our writing could be significantly improved in just one sitting or in just one session. Of course, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of usage of these different principles to improve our writing over time. So there is no tried and tested system for good writing. And again, it all depends on you and how you are going to, again, improve your writing or what strategies are you going to employ in order for you to improve your writing and the readability of your written messages. Also, we've learned that being creative or to be creative and to let it flow or let our ideas flow is also very good advice wherein we are not boxed into these different principles which could sometimes be counterproductive if you think of it that we are always anxious about adhering to these 14 different principles presented to us because again there is no tried and tested system to improve your writing. Okay, so we are also encouraged in our module to apply these principles on our previous texts on our newer ones to see if there is an improvement on our writing ability. And that would be for my report or for the summary of this very lengthy module 3. I hope that the key takeaways that I've mentioned could be a great help for us to remember the principles or the key takeaways of each principle. Now, for my discussion question, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Since we've talked about grammar, or grammar is one of the things that we must look at to improve our readability or the readability of our written messages, I have this question for you. So, there are those who believe that correcting someone's grammar is unnecessary, especially if the message is understandable. As communication professionals, what is your stance regarding this matter? So, I'd like to see your thoughts about this, and I'll wait for your comments. I'd love to see your ideas regarding this matter, this question. Thank you so much, and I hope that you've learned something. Thank you. Bye.